Um, and we're just going to start off with some introductions. And I think I'd like to invite folks from Mystic River Watershed Association who will be presenting to introduce themselves. But folks on Zoom, if you want to introduce yourselves in the chat and why you're interested in tree planting and tree canopy, I think that would also be great. While our Mystic River folks introduce themselves. And I can start with myself. I'm Isaiah. I'm the Outreach and Media Manager for the Mystic River Watershed Association. And I'll pass it over to Karina.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. I'm Karina Ramos. I am a project manager at MyRWA. I have a suite of urban forestry projects and also some environmental restoration work. I'm excited to talk to you about trees tonight. Marcia?
Thanks, Karina. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Marja Copeland, and I'm MyRWA's Stormwater Projects Manager. And that just means that my role involves anything that goes down a storm drain, anything that runs off the road, is essentially mine to manage. And that includes ensuring that we're able to offer some treatment or put in structures that can help mitigate some of the stormwater runoff that happens off or roads and sidewalks. And I'm excited to talk to you about one of the projects that we have going on in the stormwater space.
All right, so I'll pass it over to Karina. Actually, I think our next slide is a Zoom tips and tricks
Yes.
slide. Yeah, which I can cover. So these are just some tips about how to use Zoom if it's a little less comfortable for you. The controls are going to be at the bottom of your screen. We are recording this meeting, so if you don't want to be recorded, then you can leave your microphone and camera off. We also want to make sure that we're able to present with fewer interruptions. So we ask that you please remain muted during the presentation just to avoid background information. Though if you do have a question or a comment that comes up as we're presenting, please do feel free to raise your hand or put anything in the chat. A feature that can be useful is the closed captions feature, which if you don't see it immediately at the bottom of your screen is often in the three dots that say more. You can turn that on and get captions that pop up. More than welcome to accept comments, questions, etc. as we go along in the chat, and we'll have time for more questions at the end. And you can use the raise hand function by dialing *9 if you're on your phone, which I don't think anyone is right now. But yeah, happy to call on folks. And yeah, again, please feel free to introduce yourselves in the chat. And I think we'll get started with the content of this meeting. So take it away, Karina.
Thank you. Alrighty, so you are all here tonight for a little bit of an overview of our tree program at MyRWA. So why we did this meeting? We have a whole new suite of projects that are relatively new to MyRWA, and so we wanted to intro that to you all. And also, a lot of this work is participatory, and so kind of letting you all know pre-Earth Month what is going on in the watershed, so that if you would like to be involved, you are informed to do so. And so I'll walk us through the motivation for our tree work and why MyRWA is really investing heavily in the urban canopy. I'll walk you through a couple of my projects. I'll hand it over to Marja, and she'll introduce what tree trenches are and why we have them and why we need them. She'll talk about her projects, and then we'll do a little bit about how you all can get involved as residents of the watershed, and then we'll end with a Q&A. Alrighty, so why are we planting trees? So if you are a Mystic River lover, you've probably seen this map before. In 2021, we had a community science project where residents and community members mapped heat across the watershed in all of our municipalities, in 20 of our municipalities. And this map yielded a couple of really interesting data for us. So it ID'd the hottest areas of the watershed, as well as the least, as well as other things like tree canopy, impervious surface cover, all different aspects of land use. And what we found was that a lot of the areas that have our hottest temperatures coincide with our vulnerable populations, including those that have English as a second language, areas that are traditionally redlined, and areas that have lower income. Also, folks are really transit dependent, so that adds a whole extra layer of complexity. And these areas are often high in impervious surface and thus lack parks and open spaces. And so putting two maps side by side, on the left side here, we have tree canopy cover, and we can see in the dark green areas where we have higher tree canopy cover, are those areas where we have our lowest temperatures. And inversely, the areas where we have really low canopy cover are our hottest areas of the watershed. And so our tree work is really motivated by extreme heat. And why we're planting trees and engaging folks and educating folks around the urban canopy is to address our extreme heat and urban island effect in the watershed. And our main takeaway, yeah, our hottest areas of the watershed have the least tree canopy. And so what is MyRWA's urban forestry vision? Our vision is not our own. Our vision is to support others. So MyRWA is a regional partner for 20 municipalities. We don't own any land, and thus we cannot actually implement projects by ourselves. And so we work in partnership with municipal staff members, land trusts, private landowners to expand the canopy, since they are the landowners, as well as community-based organizations, friend groups, landscape architectures, environmental consultants, and a whole other suite of project partners to be our thought partners and lead this work forward. So MyRWA's urban forestry vision is to support each municipality with their goal and move everyone along together. In this way, we'll increase the canopy, so plant more trees to have a higher canopy coverage, and also diversify the canopy. We, as in the urban forester community, are really conscious of pests and disease in trees. So monocultures, or communities that favor one particular species of tree, are really susceptible to pest infestation or disease. You get one, you get the whole canopy. And so we're really interested in creating a healthy canopy that means both increasing and diversifying the species that we plant. In that, community education, disease and pests, what are they? How do you spot them? How can we have residents be the eyes and ears of our tree wardens and urban foresters in community? That is part of the mission, is to kind of spread this information out, which is one of tonight's goals. Supporting each municipality with their goals also includes helping them maintain their urban canopy. So it's not just about planting, but it's about the maintenance schedule. It's about watering. It's about the longevity of the canopy. And the first 3 years are super important for trees to establish themselves. And that is the most critical period of intervention for maintenance. And so that really goes along into our goals in supporting the municipalities. Our other goal is to cool the watershed neighborhood by neighborhood as appropriate, prioritizing the hottest neighborhoods. Prioritizing the hottest neighborhoods, which, as we showed in the previous slide, have our most critical populations of folks. So, continuing on in the vision, increasing awareness of all the co-benefits of trees is super important. So we're not, in addition to mitigating heat, we're also helping to address air quality concerns, noise pollution, stormwater, erosion, and as well as create habitat for wildlife and enhance property value. So trees are multifaceted, and investing in them today has a ripple effect. And so the urban canopy goals and visions is around education and diversification. And so our tree programs kind of all come to that main idea of let's address extreme heat and all those other co-benefits. So at MyRWA, we have what I would say 3 different kind of areas of our tree program. What I'm going to talk to you all about is private trees really quickly, and then I'll chat about public trees, and then I'll hand it off to Marcia for our trenches. So our private tree program is relatively new. As of last summer, we kicked off a project within Somerville, Everett, and Chelsea that enables residents to request a free tree from the Mystic River Watershed Association with the partnering city. to provide literally everything you need to plant a tree on your property. Where are we planting specifically and going into these 3 communities? We're planting on front or backyard so that we can cool homes and neighborhoods down. We're planting in schools, houses of worship, small businesses, commercial businesses if needed. So anywhere that's considered private land, whether that's a home or a business, is an eligible location where you can qualify for a free tree. We deployed our engagement for this work last fall in the form of, and this in real life is a really cute little business card, but I've blown it up for this presentation. And it contains a QR code that comes to me and lets me know that you want a free tree, and we put you in the process to go through the steps to do that. When are we planting our private trees? So at the moment, we're doing a planting this spring. So we just ordered 75 trees for the watershed to do plantings this spring. We're also continuing this program into the fall and next spring if needed. So if you live in one of these 3 communities and this is really interesting to you, I would suggest you scan the QR code and then you'll get in queue to be followed up with. And this is ongoing. So what's the process of requesting a tree? So once you hand to me your form, or once you hand to me your interest, what kind of happens there? I wanted to walk you through this because it can kind of seem like a daunting thing to get a tree on your property. So hopefully this will make it a little bit more approachable. So step 1 is to fill out the survey on the QR code. This flyer brings you to the exact same code, so 2 different forms of materials to engage folks with. And that means that you will get an automatic email from me that you are in the queue. Then we have lovely tree ambassadors that we have interviewed and hand selected within each community of existing residents that have just really shown an interest in doing community engagement around this work. And we've onboarded them as ambassadors into the Mystic River Watershed. And those are the folks that will be doing a site visit. So they'll come to your home and do an assessment of your property and give you their best guess of what kind of size tree you would potentially be receiving, the number of trees, if your space accommodates for that, and then a species preference based on both on the biodiversity lens and then also what you as the resident and the homeowner prefers. And so that dialogue is really key to building this program out through the ambassadors. So then once you get your site visit completed, we'll kind of go through and assess based on requests and based on our priority locations, right? So we're really hoping to use these trees in an effort to cool neighborhoods. So we'll do site selection based on the preference for cooling down neighborhoods by neighborhoods with already low canopy so that each of our trees that we put in work to mitigate heat. And then an ambassador will follow up with you about all of the planting logistics and marking the site and how do you do it on the day of and what does maintenance look like. And they'll be there to support you in planting. And so this process is the first time that we've been doing it at MyRWA, so we're learning so much as we go. But already we are having such really good relationship building and community, and I'm excited for you if you would like to take us up on this offer. In the meantime, if you want to be involved and you don't want a tree right now, or you don't live in these communities, or you don't think you're eligible, I would suggest to attend tree plantings around the city and just get familiar with how the process works so that one day when you feel like a pro, you can have a tree of your own if that's something that you would like. Alrighty, I want to talk to you a little bit about the Tree Ambassador Program. So on our website, which is linked here, we have the links to the ambassador profiles for each community. These ambassadors went through an interview process. They submitted a lot of interests into this work. And so I wanted to put this in here to make you all feel confident that you're reaching out to folks that are really keen experts based on their own internal drive to learn this material. A lot of these folks are retired or are still working or are youth members. We have a really diverse spread of ambassadors. And their goal really is to connect with residents. And so I just wanted to put a plug that these ambassadors are really key to this work and really move it along and do the relationship building with residents. All right, so that's a little bit on private trees. So again, that's in Somerville, Everett, and Chelsea. I want to talk to you now about public trees. So public trees, as opposed to private trees, don't go on folks' property. It goes on city property, and it goes on state property as well. So we have a program right now going on in Everett, Chelsea, Somerville, and also Medford to plant public trees. Where are we planting? We're planting on an existing tree pits on street trees. We're planting in parks and open spaces. And we're doing this on the same timeline as the private trees. So in spring of this year, fall of this year, and then next spring if needed. Oh, is that all I have for this? Let me go back. Yes, so I guess the only other thing I wanted to say on this is that for all of our public trees, all of them are open to volunteer plantings. And so we've picked trees that are suitable for the labor force of volunteers. So if you're not interested in private trees, but you really want to get involved in tree planting, this is definitely your avenue. And you don't have to live in these communities to participate. And so I'll farther down the line when I have a little bit of info on how to get involved in this work, I'll cue you into the mechanism to do that. But this is definitely where I would suggest you can fall into, is supporting us with our planting our public trees. Alrighty, so I'm going to pass it off to Marja to talk a little bit about tree trenches.
Thanks, Karina, for all that information and for giving that great lead in to this other section of our program. So I'm going to be talking to you all about our tree trenches work, or you might hear them be called also stormwater tree trenches. And this is really meant to be a water quality mechanism coupled with a climate cooling solution, where we're able to take in some of the stormwater runoff and both support a tree and get some water quality benefits. But before we talk to you about the tree trenches themselves, why is it that we care about these concerns? Why do we care about greening? So Karina definitely mentioned that our city is hot. We know that this watershed is hot, and we can see that we do not have a robust canopy all throughout our watershed. That's because cities change rivers, it changes the landscape, it changes the watershed itself. As we've done things like dam or river and really changed the hydrology of the stream, we've also changed the in-stream processes that happens there, making it more important for us to be managing our water quality, particularly from our stormwater runoff that's going into rivers like the Mystic. Next slide. We've also done things like added a lot of impervious surfaces like roads, rooftops, parking lots to help us get from one place in our watershed to the next. And as you can see here, we've expanded quite large throughout our watershed, which is great in a lot of ways, but that increase in impervious surfaces manifests in or leads to a number of different environmental problems that we now have to solve by expanding the trees program or installing stormwater management practices. So increases in this impervious surface, like our roads, rooftops, parking lot, leads to many challenges within our watershed. Before, when we had just mostly forests, we're able to infiltrate all that rainwater into the soil and have, the roots uptake the water, do all the things that they need to do. All the microbes in the soil are able to process some of that. But as we start creating impervious surfaces, we change that. We start getting water quality issues. This impacts the biology of the communities. We increase flooding. We get runoff of oil, pet waste, fertilizers into our storm drains. You get erosion, and we lose a lot of uses in our watershed as we start to cover it with these impervious surfaces. Next slide. But we know that this has a lot of challenges. Like it was mentioned earlier, this also leads to challenges around extreme heat. We can also get poor air quality in these heavily urbanized areas, particularly if you're living in one of these communities that are more vulnerable to heat stress and you lack air conditioning. This was from an event that we did in Everett that asked residents to say what was health impacts from these. And as you can see, there are a lot of health impacts that were stated, like asthma, dehydration, exhaustion. So we're really working to mitigate some of these concerns that we're hearing back from our community through structures like tree trenches or by just expanding out or tree program throughout our watershed. Next slide. So what exactly is this thing that I'm talking about? What do tree trenches fall under? Like, what exactly are we doing with these? So it makes up this class of infrastructure that's called green infrastructure. And in green infrastructure, we're able to offer nature-based solutions. So essentially, we're trying to mimic what was naturally there before we decided to pave over a lot of our city as we urbanized and as we grew. So green infrastructure really aims to reduce things like the urban heat island effect, provide more shade for cooling if you're putting in like a tree canopy structure, flood reduction as a lot of these grass areas can soak up rainwater, soak up the stormwater that's running off these surfaces, improve air quality if we are able to plant the right greenery essentially, and improve water quality as we're able to have or contaminated stormwater or stormwater that's carrying all of these pollutants soak into the ground, soak into the subsurface and undergo all those reactions that are able to improve the quality of the water before it makes its way into the river. Next slide. So tree trenches themselves are essentially a subsurface storage with a tree on top. And the goal here is to direct water from these impervious surfaces toward a tree. And below the tree, like you can see in this image from Deep Root, that is generally a storage and infiltration space in the subsurface, which can store the runoff, recharge the groundwater, and also water the tree and support tree health and hopefully increase tree survivability, and provides a lot of other benefits, like obviously like we've been saying, increasing the canopy, but cooling the neighborhoods, working to improve our water quality, air quality, like I said, tree survivability as well. Next slide. So we also surveyed all of our community members to understand why would they want to see something like a tree trench out in their community. And we did surveys in Melrose, Everett, and Chelsea. As you can see, a lot of the community members were concerned with not having enough shade in their communities, really being concerned about the water quality, wanting to combat this change in climate what we're seeing, where we're having, these colder winters that are sometimes colder than we planned for, or these hotter and wetter summers that we weren't ready for occasionally. So how really can we combat those changes? People are also concerned about providing habitat and being able to have those natural spaces still existing in their communities. Next slide. So we really set out to mitigate climate vulnerability with the grant that we have that is funded by the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Program. And we decided to do a pilot project in 3 communities, the same ones that were surveyed earlier, Chelsea, Everett, and Melrose, with the goal in Chelsea and Everett, which if you remember back to the earlier slide of the map of where it was hot, those are some of the hottest areas of our watershed, to plant trees in these places with high levels of heat. And then Melrose, really their concern was around flooding risk. And the goal was to prioritize areas where we could mitigate flood risk by having one of these tree trench structures in the community. Next slide. So this is the list of places where we are installing tree trenches. This spring in our watershed, we have a number of locations in Everett, 2 locations in Chelsea, and 2 in Melrose. One thing that I didn't actually add on this slide deck is how exactly we go about figuring out where do you put a tree trench. Quite challenging, and one of the things that we have to be considerate about, particularly when you're putting something close to the sidewalk, is there enough space left for people to stroll down the sidewalk? So to ensure that your sidewalk width is wide enough to accommodate something like a tree trench that would be in the sidewalk. We also have to ensure that we have the right types of soils and that we have sufficient space and it meets the goals of the communities themselves. That's kind of why you might see a disparity in the numbers in certain communities than others. It's just, communities like Melrose, if anyone lives there, their sidewalks are a little bit narrower. So it was harder to find space to put in a larger tree trench structure, but we are committed to continuing this project and finding other locations moving forward with this project once we're finished this construction in the spring of this year. Next slide. I think this probably is my last slide. So this gets into how you can get involved with any of our trees work, and I'll let Karina tell you all about how you can get involved, and I'll tell you about my survey afterward. So back to you, Karina.
Thank you, Marja. Yes, so how can you get involved? So it is almost April and Earth Day, Earth Week, Earth Month, woo! Is Myra's favorite season of the year. Well, it definitely is mine. And so I wanted to walk you all through the tree canopy page of our website to familiarize with yourself with the website page because it is brand new. It just launched in mid-February as a Valentine's Day present to you all. And also show you where to find all of our events coming up that are tree planting related. So I'm going to redirect us to the website here. And so that brought us right to our page. I'm going to take us back a step and start home. So at the moment, if you scroll down, there is a link that will bring you directly to the trees page. But after Earth Month season, it will be embedded within the work. So I will suggest that you go to the work and then go to climate resilience, since this is heat-focused work. And our trees page is embedded within Wicked Cool Mystic. Wicked Cool Mystic is our umbrella for all the cooling solutions that we're putting forth in the watershed, not just trees, but all other sorts of cooling solutions. And so within Wicked Cool Mystic, you will scroll down and see expanding our tree canopy. And then it is linked under multiple projects to increase our tree canopy. And then you will arrive at our tree page. So what is on our tree page? It's an overview of the motivations that I've led you through the beginning of this presentation about heat and the correlation between our canopy coverage and areas of extreme heat. It'll show you the progress, what we've done to date, and what communities we've touched. It'll tell you a little bit about the projects that we have going on, which are the plantings on public land, the private plantings that we talked about with residents, and then all of the education and outreach that we have surrounding those two programs. Then you'll scroll down and see resources. So once you either have a tree or you're considering getting a tree and you kind of want to know what you're getting yourself into, there are a couple of different resources here for you. So if you're a visual learner and you really like videos, the Mystic River Watershed Association did a planting in Chelsea last fall, and we recorded the whole thing. And Isaiah, the amazing tech wizard that he is, put together a video for us. It's about 5 minutes, kind of walking you through what happens when you get the tree in front of you to the moment that you walk away and it's planted and mulched and ready to start thriving. So that's that video. There's also some tree lists and planting guides that were developed by the Malden Tree Warden at the City of Malden. This guide is about 50 pages, and it's a really in-depth resource for conditions. So if you want a small tree, but you have an overhead wire and you have all these conditions, this guide kind of walks you through all of the potential barriers and limitations, and then the options that you have with those limitations. And most likely than not, there is a tree in a particular species that will thrive in your area, and it just We just have to find out what it is. And so that's kind of one of the resources. And then we have a caring for your new tree. So kind of like a one page on how do you maintain your tree and make it so that it makes it to adulthood. We have it translated in Spanish and in Portuguese. And then a watershed friendly landscaping guides, mostly about gardens, pollinator gardens, to kind of complement the biodiversity effort that we're doing for trees. So if you are really advocate about more of a holistic approach to cooling, to biodiversity, I would suggest that you check out the landscaping guide. It has a lot of really cool information about pollinator gardens. And then finally, you'll get to get involved. So it has 3 different sections. Upcoming events, which are in-person tree planting events with the time and the date and the place and all of that information, which will be updated at the end of the week because we just got confirmation today about our tree planting events. And then you'll have the opportunity to request a tree depending on what community you live in. So if you're requesting a tree from us, it'll be the first request form here in our 3 communities. These are the 3 communities we're working with because these are the communities in the grant application process. So we didn't just randomly select what communities we wanted to work with. It came out of a regional effort. So that's why we chose these 3 communities. And then if you are a resident of Cambridge, we will redirect you to Green Cambridge's tree request form, a partner in this work. And then if you are a citizen and resident of Malden or Revere, we'll also redirect you to their programs. So our page will hold not only our programs for tree planting, but all of the other communities that we know are also offering similar things so that you kind of have a one-stop to go to. And then an adopt city tree program that a couple of different cities and towns have in the watershed, and you can click on your particular city or town and it will redirect you to your municipality's homepage and then guide you through the steps of adopting a city tree. What does that mean? What would happen if you adopted a city tree? You would be the local Lorax of that tree. So you'd be responsible for cleaning the tree pit if people find that it's also a place to put trash. You kind of keep an eye on it. Maybe you put a little bit of mulch on it every spring to increase the decomposition and the biodiversity within the soil. And you water the tree. And so mature trees, they look sturdy and well off, but during extreme weather events, if you are feeling hot, the tree is also feeling hot. And so we encourage you to also water those trees. So when you adopt a tree, it's a little bit about the maintenance of the actual tree pit and a little bit about the watering. And then finally, here at the end, we'll recognize our partners in this work. So this tree page is dynamic. It's new. We just launched it, and a whole bunch of new information will be coming. So this is your kind of one-stop shop for if you're really interested in this work. Where to go? And then some upcoming events here that I just said today, we got confirmation. So these are kind of some of those upcoming events. So if you are a Medford or Somerville resident, we have a tree planting tutorial that you could attend to learn how to plant a tree. We have a trainer from the Department of Conservation and Recreation, DCR, who is a trained arborist and the tree warden of Northampton, Massachusetts, coming to do a demo day for us for Medford and Somerville residents on April 23rd from 9 to noon. The location, TBD, that'll be more information will be in our newsletter. If you are a resident of Everett, Everett has identified their Earth Day to be on April 26th. And Everett will have so many different things going on, but specifically for trees at Gateway Mall, if you're familiar with the Costco and the Home Depot, the Target, the lone Chuck E. Cheese in Massachusetts, in that parking lot, which we all know is huge and has so many available spaces to park, is also really lacking in trees. So we'll be doing an effort to increase the canopy there. And so that will be on Saturday, April 26th. probably all day, definitely during the morning hours. And then Malden, advertising this event, Malden is having their Malden Arbor Day on April 12th, where they are partnering with Malden River Works to do some tree planting and tree work. So that is more of a save the date, and details are kind of unfolding as we come to become aware of them. So more events to come. Check out our website and subscribe to our newsletter. When you click a link to go to our website, the first thing that's going to pop up at you is please subscribe to our newsletter. That is where you should probably subscribe so that you can get our monthly, we don't spam you, monthly newsletters of all the happenings. And the April one is pretty substantial for all these events. And finally, if you live in Chelsea, Somerville, or Everett, and you are thinking that you would like a tree, even if you're not sure, we will do a site visit on your property to confirm or not. Sometimes we've had cases where a resident has wanted one and we've been able to put 2 or 3 on their property, so you really never know. If you're interested, scan this code and get in the queue, and we will follow up with you for, at this point, a fall tree. We're all done with collecting information for this spring, so you'll be in queue for our fall list. So check out our tree interest form. And Marja?
Thanks so much, Karina. And also, if you want to tell us about where you might want to see things like tree trenches in your neighborhood, then we have a tree trench community survey that's still live on our website. It's available in multiple languages, and you're able to tell us about what kind of tree you would like to see. You can tell us about what priorities we should be considering as we figure out where to put trees. And even though this particular granting Everett, Chelsea, and Melrose is coming to a close, we do share this information with the municipal staff so they're able to hear from the residents about what they want and where they're concerned about. So if you are open to taking it, you can scan the code that's on the screen, or you can visit our website that I'm sure Isaiah has put in the chat. And that brings us to the end of our trees seminar or trees chat for the evening, but this work isn't possible without so many of our partners. We can't do this without, whether that be members of the Resilient Mystic Collaborative that really are partners with us in this work in these communities. And all these other partners, whether they be our consultants or funders or other community-based organizations that really link hands with us to get this work out in the watershed and ensure that we are able to move forward in greening this space. So thank you all so much. We'll take any questions that you might have.
Yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to unmute. Feel free to put them in the chat. We'll be hanging out here for a little while, and so happy to answer anything that you have. And thanks, Karina and Marja, for presenting. And I think the other thing I'll say is I will share this recording with you all, and feel free to spread it around.
Thank you all. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thanks for populating the chat with all the links, Isaiah.
No worries. All right. Well, if we don't have any questions, I think we'll wrap up, and yeah, feel free to exit. And if you don't exit, I'll start kicking people.